about an interesting tool called as Selenium. Okay, and then we'll try to dig deeper and try to get an overall understanding of the Selenium tool. And finally, we'll set up the necessary. So first of all, we have understood that automation testing is one of the software testing approaches, and it involves using software tools and scripts to perform tests. And a really important thing to remember over here is that automation testing is comparatively more efficient and is especially useful when you have a lot of repetitive tasks or when the test cases themselves are very complex for an individual to run manually. Okay, so to understand things better for this session, let's consider our e-commerce application scenario. Okay, so let's say we have already built an e-commerce application and it looks something like the one that you see in the slide. We have a login page, we have the home page, we have the products page, product details page, cart page, and so on and so forth, right? And let's say before we push or before we roll it out to the public, we want to test it, as in we want to test whether it's functioning properly or not, whether the user interface is looking good or not, and so on and so forth, right? And let's say we wanted to test the application manually, and that too from an end user perspective, so that we'll be able to see how it is working and if it is actually working as per our expectations or not. Okay, and how do you do that? We would manually open the application. We'll try to navigate through it, right? Okay, so the first step would be to open the application in the browser. Okay, and then the application in the browser. Okay, and then the next step would be to go through the login page, go to the home page, go to the products page, product details, and so on and so forth, right? And if you observe over here, when you are testing it manually, at each and every point you're performing some or the other kind of an action, right? Let's say clicking on the login or register button, or typing in our username and password, or clicking on a product, opening a home page, and so on and so forth, right? So these are all manual actions. Now we are basically trying to manually test the application, or basically the software's functionality, and we are trying to see if the application is working as expected or not, right? So this entire approach is nothing but manual testing, right? So manual testing basically involves human testers who carefully evaluate the entire software's functionality in a step-by-step manner. Okay, and what happens when you're talking about automation testing? See, here what happens is, instead of manually executing each and every step, automation testing will allow us to break down all of the actions into systematic steps that can be performed automatically. Okay, now these systematic steps are called as test scenarios. Okay, and these automated tests are performed usually using a script or a program or an automation tool altogether. Okay, so just think about it. What all kind of things can we automate? There could be a lot of actions or tasks, but let's take a couple of examples. Okay, so for example, the tasks that are prone to human error, right? So let's say you are buying a product, there will always be a checkout process, right? You take a product, you add it to the cart, where you have to enter the shipping details, you have to enter the payment details, you have to enter the payment methods, whether you're going to pay with UPI, card, or anything as such, right? And these are the points where we need to be very, very careful. Okay, so such scenarios could be automated accordingly. Okay, and then there are other repetitive tasks like, checking the login logout functionality, or adding and removing products in a shopping cart, which you would probably do for every product that is available in the application. Okay, so we can automate those tasks as well. Or other things could be like, certain tedious tasks where there's a lot of human effort and interaction. For example, checking whether each and every product's name is correct or not, each and every product's description is correct or not, its price, category, images, etc., right? So checking all of them could also be automated. Okay, so there could be a multitude of similar tasks like this. So in a nutshell, what you can think of is whatever steps we do manually, we can perform all of them in an automated way using the relevant tools and approaches. Okay, and automating such tasks, it makes it more efficient for us, and it saves a lot of time as well, right? And moving on, automation testing can be applied to a variety of testing types. It could be unit testing, integration testing, regression testing, and so on and so forth, right? To understand them in a simple way, unit testing basically involves testing individual parts, or these parts can also be called as units of a software application. Okay, it could be a single function or an entire module of a code. Okay, whereas integration testing is a type of software testing which basically involves individual software modules that are combined and they're tested as a group, so that we can basically evaluate the interactions and data exchange between these components. Okay, similarly, regression testing is performed to ensure that whatever recent changes or updates we are doing in the software, they are not negatively impacting the previously working functionalities. Okay, for example, let's say we make changes to the website's checkout process by adding in a new payment method. Okay, we need to ensure, like as part of regression testing, we need to ensure that whatever new change we have brought in, it does not introduce any issues in the existing functionalities. Okay, this is where we'll try to verify all the previously working features, like adding items to the cart, applying discount codes, etc., and we'll check whether they're functioning properly or not. Okay, so in a nutshell, think of it like this: when you talk about regression testing, you're basically checking like when a new particular functionality is added, it is not breaking or like clashing with any existing functionality altogether. Okay, right. So that being said, one important thing that sets aside automation testing is it requires the testers to write scripts or use testing tools to test the software functionality. Okay, so when you're trying to automate things, you will either need a script or a tool. Okay, right. So there are many tools available in the market for automation testing, like you have Selenium, you have Water, QTP, Telerik Studio, TestIM, and so on and so forth, right? And among them, Selenium is one of the most popular ones out there. Okay, so in simple terms, Selenium is a free, as an open source automated testing tool, or you can also call it as a framework, and it is used to validate web applications applications across different browsers, different platforms with the help of specifically written codes or instructions. Okay, and these code or instructions, they're also called as test scripts, and they're used to automate the entire testing process altogether. Okay, right? Another interesting question is, why do we need to choose Selenium? You see, Selenium is a highly flexible tool that supports a wide range of browsers, wide range of platforms and programming languages as well. Okay, it also supports major operating systems like Mac OS, Windows, Linux, and so on and so forth. And in fact, when it comes to choosing the tools for automation testing, Selenium has been one of the most commonly and most popularly used tools out there, as you can see in the report by Catalan. Okay, in fact, Selenium software is not just a single tool; it's an entire suite of software where each and every part of the suite caters to different Selenium QA testing requirements when it comes to an organization. Okay, and in general, the Selenium suite contains three major parts. You have the Selenium IDE, you have the Selenium Grid, and then there is the WebDriver. Okay, so the Selenium IDE, or the integrated development environment, you can think of it as the simplest tool in the Selenium suite. You can think of it as a browser add-on that helps you create various tests very, very quickly. Okay, so moreover, it's mainly used for prototyping. Okay, and then there is the Selenium Grid, which basically helps us in executing tests parallelly across different browsers, different operating systems, and different machines altogether. That is, you can use Selenium Grid to run multiple test scripts on multiple machines and multiple operating systems all at the same time. Okay, and to understand it better, let's take an example. Let's say we have an e-commerce application, right? And we would expect it to run both on Android and iOS operating systems, right? It should also be able to run on any different browser altogether or any operating system. So to check that, we might need to test our e-commerce application across multiple browsers and multiple operating systems as well, right? And that too at the same time. In such scenarios, we can use Selenium Grid. Okay, it helps us in identifying any kind of compatibility issues that might come up because of different environments altogether. Okay, right? Then there is the WebDriver, and the Selenium WebDriver is basically a software library that programmers use to control web browsers and automate tasks on websites. Okay, so you can think of it as an automation approach or as an automation interface which allows us to execute tests across various browsers, right? Think of it like this: the Selenium WebDriver has functions to control a browser. Okay, and we can leverage these functions to automate specific tasks on websites. Okay, and it also supports different programming languages. It allows us to write the tests in our own choice of language. You can write it in Java, C, Python, and so on and so forth. So much so that the Selenium WebDriver has kind of become a de facto for UI automation, and more than 80% of the companies are using it. Okay, and Selenium WebDriver, or a browser driver, it interacts with the web browser using browser-specific drivers provided by the corresponding browser vendor. Right? Think of it like this: every web browser out there, for example, Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, Chrome, Firefox, and so on and so forth, they have their own browser drivers on which the application runs, and this driver is basically responsible to make the browser understand the commands that are passing from a script. Okay, right? So Selenium WebDriver kind of acts like an interface between the test cases you write and the code that you want to execute and the corresponding web browser driver as well. Okay, and there are various browser drivers for various browsers. For example, for Chrome is Chrome WebDriver, Edge driver, Firefox Gecko, and so on and so forth. Right? To quickly summarize, the Selenium suite generally contains three major components. We have the Selenium IDE, or the integrated development environment. We have the Selenium Grid, and then we have the WebDriver. Okay, and all these components can either be used individually or they can be paired with one another to achieve a level of test automation. Okay, right? Now, so far we have understood the importance of automation testing, and we have also understood that there are a lot of tools available out there to perform automation testing, right? And Selenium is one of the most popular ones out there. In addition to that, we went a little deeper and we tried to understand the components in Selenium and why we have chosen it. Okay, let's move on and talk about automation testing with Selenium and Java. Okay, so just to reiterate, Selenium supports multiple programming languages for automation testing, and as we move ahead in the upcoming sessions, we'll be using Selenium to write and run our automation tests. Okay, and even more specifically, in this course, we'll be learning how to write Selenium tests using Java, which is one of the most popular programming languages out there. Okay, right. So before we start writing our first Selenium test, we need to install a few prerequisites in our system. Okay, and in this session, we'll see how to install these prerequisites in a Windows system. Okay, and we'll focus on first installing the IDE, or the integrated development environment, and then we'll also install the Java JDK, or the Java development kit, and we'll also install a browser driver. Okay, that being said, the corresponding setup instructions for Ubuntu and macOS operating systems, they'll be provided to you in the cheat sheets that you have. Okay, right. So we'll first start off with installing the required IDE. And when you talk about it, an IDE, or an integrated development environment, it's a software application that helps programmers develop software code very, very efficiently. Okay, it increases developer productivity by combining capabilities like software editing, software building, testing, and packaging in an easy to use application altogether. Okay, and here you can see a couple of popular IDEs, right? For example, you have VS Code, which you might have already used. Okay, you have Eclipse, Thea, and then there is IntelliJ IDEA. Okay, and in this course, we'll be working with IntelliJ IDEA. Okay, so you see, this IntelliJ IDEA is one of the most popular integrated development environment IDEs that is widely used for Java projects altogether. Okay, and the installation process is pretty straightforward. You just need to download the file, execute the downloaded file, and open the installed application. Okay, and throughout the rest of the session, what we'll try to do is we'll first try to understand the steps involved, and then we'll try to replicate them accordingly. Okay, right. So first of all, we'll need to navigate to the IntelliJ IDEA download page. Okay, and the corresponding URL will be available for you in the cheat sheet. Right, it looks something like this: https://www.jetbrains.com/idea/download, and so on and so forth. Okay, right, and then we'll be using the free community version available. Okay, and once you open the download page, we'll choose the 2018.3.6 version of the IntelliJ IDEA tool. Okay, and once downloaded, you should be able to see the file generally in your downloads folder, and it will look something like this. Okay, and once you run the file, it opens a dialog box like this, and you need to select the 64-bit launcher option. Okay, and to continue with the installation steps, you can continue with the steps as shown in the tool. Okay, right? Let's try this out. So yeah, I've already opened the relevant URL over here. You can see that jetbrains.com/idea/download/other.html. Okay. The next step is to scroll down and open the 2018 version. Okay. So we'll scroll down over here and we'll find out that the IntelliJ IDEA Community Edition, this is what we're going to work with. Okay. And it is available for Linux, Mac OS, and at the same time Windows as well. Okay. So for this scenario, what we'll do is we'll download the Windows file for it. Okay. All you need to do is just simply click on it, and based on your internet connectivity and based on a couple of other factors, the download might take anywhere between a couple of seconds to a couple of minutes altogether. Okay, right? And for the sake of this session, what I've done is I've already downloaded a copy and kept it on my desktop. Okay, this is how it'll look in your downloads folder. Okay, and in my case, I've already put it in the desktop folder. Okay, right. Now the next step is to run the file because you have already downloaded it. Okay, so we'll just simply double click on it and the file will start executing. Okay, and you'll see a prompt something like this. You just need to click on yes. And this is how the installer will look like. Okay, so it will say that you are going to install the IntelliJ IDEA Community Edition setup. Okay, you just need to click on next to continue. Okay, it will show you your destination folder, space required, and things like that. Click on next and then click on next again. And here you can see that create a desktop shortcut. Okay, you need to select the 64-bit launcher. All right, okay, let's click on next and click on install. All right, so that is how your installation will look like. Okay, and once your tool is successfully installed and based on your system configuration and a lot of other factors, the installation may take a couple of minutes altogether. Okay, and once your installation is successfully completed, you should see a window something like this. Okay, so you can click on finish to complete the installation process. Okay, right, let's get back. All right, so we have installed the IDE. Okay, the next step is to install the Java Development Kit or the JDK. Let's see how to do that. So to install the Java JDK on Windows, we need to download the JDK file from the corresponding downloads page, extract the zipped folder, and we need to configure the JDK in our system. Okay, so to download the necessary software, obviously we'll have to navigate to the downloads page. And in this scenario, we'll be downloading the 11.x version. Okay, the X could be any kind of number. Okay, you see, in certain situations, we'll need to use the most compatible version of tools so that we can work seamlessly. Okay, and that is why in this case, we are going to use the JDK, the Java Development Kit 11, which is one of the most compatible versions of Java for Selenium automation testing. Okay, so once downloaded, it looks something like this in your downloads folder. And because it's a compressed file, you need to right click on the downloaded file and click on extract all. Okay, and once extracted, we'll need to configure the Java Development Kit to run in our system. All right, so to configure Java on Windows, we need to configure something called as a path environment variable. Okay, these environment variables, they are like special instructions that basically tell your computer where to find important programs and where to find important files altogether. Okay, so when you run a command like java c space filename.java, your terminal or your command prompt will look at the environment variable to find out where exactly is the executable file that will help it in running this particular file. Okay, that is when you configure the entire environment variable, you can directly start using the programming tools from your terminal or command lines. That being said, it is also equally possible to run a program without specifying the path, but you will need to give full path of the executable. It will look something like C:/ program files, Java, JDK, bin, so on and so on, instead of simply mentioning the file name. Okay, so in this scenario, what happens is the environment variables are going to be used to specify the paths and configurations that are required for the JDK to function correctly. Okay, so to configure the JDK into the environment path variables, we'll first navigate to the bin folder within the extracted directory. Okay, so you have downloaded the file, you have extracted the file, and you have a folder with all the relevant compressed files altogether. Okay, so there we'll navigate to the bin directory and we'll copy the path to the bin folder. All right, and then we'll open the start menu. We'll click on the Windows icon, or basically the Windows button on your laptop. We'll enter the environment variables and we'll edit the system environment variables altogether. Okay, so let's try it out for now. All right, so as usual, we have the like downloads link open, right? So we have navigated over here, and in our scenario, we want to use the 11 version, all right, Java 11.x version. So we'll just scroll down. We'll go to the point where it shows 11.0.2 build, and we'll download the Windows relevant file. Okay, as you can see over here, you have a zip, and for Mac OS, you have tar gz and so on and so forth, right? So in our case, we'll be downloading a zip file. Okay, you just need to click on it, and the download will automatically start. Okay, and once again, depending on your network speed, it could take anywhere between a couple of seconds to a couple of minutes altogether. Okay, right. So for the sake of this session, I've already downloaded it. You can see the file over here. Open JDK 11.0.2 Windows x64 bin.zip. Okay, and what's the next step? Once you have downloaded it, you just need to right click on it and select the extract all option. Okay, and you can either choose to select this option, which will open a new folder. If not, you can just simply close. All right, and click on extract, and based on your system speed, it might take a couple of minutes altogether. Okay, so once you're done with extracting, you'll see a folder with the same name as your zip file. Okay, and this is where you'll have all the files like JDK 11.0.2, bin, conf, and so on and so forth, right? And what did we discuss? We need to copy the folder path for this bin folder, right? Okay, so what we can do is once you open the bin folder, you just need to click on this address bar in your Windows Explorer window. Okay, and it will turn into something like this: C, users, OneDrive, desktop, so on and so forth. Okay, so you just need to right click on it and copy the URL, copy the path. Okay, let's get back. All right, so we just copied the bin folder's path. Okay, the next step is to set the environment variables. So what we'll do is we'll click on the start menu. You can either click on the Windows button or you can directly just press the Windows button on your laptop as well. Okay, once you do that, there's a small pop-up that will open where you can enter environment variables, and then you'll see an option called as edit the system environment variables. You need to click on that. Okay, and in the open window, we'll open the environment variables button, and there'll be a new window that opens. We'll navigate to system variables panel. We'll select the path option and hit the edit button. Okay, and so basically think of it like this: system variables, they are a set of configurations that are specific to the entire operating system. Okay, so once it opens, we'll click on the new button to create a new variable, and whatever path we have copied so far from the bin folder, we'll paste it over here and we'll click on OK. Okay, let's try it out. All right, so we have already copied the bin folder path, right? So we can just copy it again if needed. Right click on copy, and you can either click on the Windows icon over there on your desktop, or you can also press the Windows button on your laptop. Okay, this is where you can simply type environment variables, and you'll be able to see an option called as edit the system environment variables, right? You just need to click on it and a small window will open wherein you need to click on the next button, which is environment variables. All right, so in this there are two categories: user variables and system variables. Now system variables, as we have discussed, they are a set of configurations that are specific to the entire operating system. All right, okay, so this is where we need to edit the path variable. All right, so if you look at it, if you scroll down here, you can see that there is a variable called as path, and it has a couple of values. Okay, so you'll need to select the path variable and click on edit, because we are going to add a new path to it. Okay, right. Next, once it opens, you'll be able to see a lot of paths over here, right? So here, what we need to do is we need to copy this bin folder's location, okay, and we need to add it over here. How will we do that? We'll click on the new button and we'll just Control V, paste it over here and click on OK. All right, okay, let's get back. So we have basically set a system path variable. The next step is to set up the user path variable or user variables altogether, right? So what we'll do is we'll navigate to the JDK folder within the extracted directory. We'll copy the path of that JDK main folder, and to do that, you can simply click on the address bar, Control A, and right click on the selection and then select copy. Okay, right. So then we'll have to navigate to the user variables panel, click on the button called as new, and then we'll set up a variable name called as Java_home and give this particular folder's URL or location as the variable value. Okay, and once done, to see if we have correctly configured the Java development kit in our system or not, we can open the command prompt and type Java space --version. Okay, let's try this out. All right, so we have already set up the system variable, basically the path variable, where we have copied the bin folder location, right? Okay, so we can just click on OK, and now it's time to talk about the user variables. Okay, so we'll go to the user variables. We need to create a new variable, and for that we need to copy the JDK folders location. This entire Java development kit folders location is a new variable that we are going to create. Okay, right. So we'll just select the URL or the location over here or the path over here. We'll click on copy, right click and copy. Okay, and we'll navigate over here and we'll name it as Java_home. And the variable value will be whatever path or location we have copied, and we will click on OK, and then finally OK, and here also we'll click on OK. Now, to check whether we have successfully added JDK to our system or not, we can just simply click on the Windows button, search for CMD command prompt, and once it opens, you just need to type Java space --version. So once you do that, you'll be able to see the various Java related tools that are installed in your system. And here we can see that OpenJDK 11.0.2 is installed. Okay, right? Let's get back. So we have basically added Java_home as the variable name in the user variables, and we have given the path of the JDK folder as the variable value. All right, and once done, to see if we have correctly configured JDK or not, we have also given Java space --version in the command prompt. And if we are able to see something like OpenJDK space version number, which in our case is 11.0.2, right? So it basically means that our setup is successfully configured. Okay, so far we have installed the IDE and we have also installed the JDK. Now it's time to install the browser driver. Okay, and you see we have discussed earlier also that the WebDriver basically interacts with the web browser using browser specific drivers provided by the corresponding browser vendor, right? So think of it like this: every web browser out there, for example, Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, each of them have their own driver on which the application runs, and this driver is responsible to make a browser understand the commands that are getting passed on from a script. Okay, and multiple browser vendors have their own browser drivers, and here you can see the links to download each of them, right? So you'll have all of this provided in your cheat sheet altogether. Okay, but in this course we'll be performing Selenium Java test on the Chrome browser. Okay, so we'll be using the Chrome browser driver accordingly. Okay, to install the Chrome driver, the steps are pretty straightforward. You just need to navigate to the downloads page, download the relevant version of Chrome driver, and extract the zipped folder accordingly. Okay, right. So as usual, to download the Chrome web driver, we'll need to navigate to the corresponding downloads page, right, which is chromedriver.chromium.org/downloads. Okay, let's try it out once. All right, so let's navigate to our browser. Okay, and for our sake, I've already kept this tab open, right? So we have chromedriver.chromium.org/downloads. Okay, so we have navigated over here, and now the fundamental question is, if you look over here, you'll see Chrome version 114, 113, 112, and so on and so forth. The fundamental question is which version of the web driver to download, right? So to do that, we need to first identify what exactly is our Chrome web browser's version. Okay, to do that, what we need to do is you can see 3 dots over here, right? It's also called as the hamburger menu or the browser menu. Okay, you just need to click on that, and here at the bottom, the second last option is help option. Okay, so you under the help option, the first option about Google Chrome. Okay, so you have to select that, and once you click on it, a new tab will open wherein your Chrome browser's version will be checked, and if it's not up to date, it's always suggested to update it. Okay, and here, as you can see, the version is 114.0 point something. Okay, and what does the Chrome driver webpage say? If you are using Chrome version 114, please download the Chrome driver 114.0 point something. Okay, so we just need to click on this file, and it will take us to a separate tab. Okay, and under that, if you look over here, we can see multiple operating system support. Okay, you have Linux, Mac ARM, Win32, and so on and so forth. Okay, and based on our requirement, we'll be downloading a suitable version, and because we're installing this in Windows, we'll be downloading the Win32 version of it. Okay, and as usual, depending on your internet speed and a lot of other factors, it could might as well take a couple of seconds to a couple of minutes altogether. Okay, and once this is downloaded, the next step is to go to the downloads location and then open the zip file accordingly. Okay, in general, it's the downloads folder on the system. In my case, for this particular session, I've already downloaded it and kept it in a particular folder, right? As you can see over here, Chrome driver _win32.zip. Okay, so and to open it, we just need to right click on it and click on extract all. All right, and then click on extract so that the folder will be extracted, and it will look something like this. And once you open, you'll be able to see the relevant executable files and all. Okay, all right, so let's get back. So on the whole, we have downloaded the prerequisites that we need for us to get started with our first Selenium test, right? So we have downloaded and installed the IDE. We have configured the Java development kit so that we can run Java programs, and we have also installed the Chrome browser driver. Okay, in case you're facing any trouble while installing either of these things, it is suggested that you revisit the session and carefully follow each and every instruction that we have discussed. Okay, you can also refer to the cheat sheets for a step-by-step approach. If your concern is not clarified even then, you can post it in the discussion forum and get it answered. Okay, so another important thing to note over here is that to be able to have a seamless testing experience and to be able to use all the tools without any errors, it is recommended that you ensure that your PC falls under the minimum system requirements as shown here. Okay, your operating system should be a 64-bit operating system, that is always suggested. Okay, your processor should be Intel Core i5 or i7 or higher. You should have a minimum of 8 GB or higher RAM, and you should have a minimum of 5 GB of free disk space for installation. Okay, right. So let's quickly summarize what we have learned in this particular session.